Hi, I'm Reggie Harris, and I'm running for Cincinnati City Council in 2021. Ozie, thank you for joining me. I appreciate
Thanks for
it.
having me. Thanks for having me,
Yeah.
Reggie.
Listen, so we are doing, we will Reggie for Cincinnati podcast, and the whole point of this podcast, Ozie, is to really, we're thinking about transparency to give an inside look into campaigns. What do candidates think about? Who are they talking to? How do they come to decisions related to policy? And so we decided, because this is a very big topic in Cincinnati currently, affordable housing. And I think, like many big topics there's a lot of opinion really rooted in personal experience, which is very valid. And then there's like the reality of the work and the reality of how to improve upon the experience. And so I've been reaching out to folks who I know have lots of expertise on this topic to chat. And so, I immediately thought of you, Ozie, because, you were the executive director of a community development program. You have been talking about housing issues and housing as a social justice issue for decades. And the reason why I know that, because I was thinking about when was the first time I met Ozie. Ozie, the first time I met you, I didn't actually meet you. I read about you because I was running the endorsement process with my colleague Pamela Miller for NASW, the National Association of Social Workers, and we endorsed you for your council race in 2017. And I was
Yes.
reading your endorsement questionnaire, and I was like, oh, this brother is slick. What? And then after that, we didn't get a chance to like meet officially, but like I kept seeing you at meetings, and these were always meetings, like community meetings, where like the smackdown was happening in some sense, like something was going on, and I think we finally had a chance to connect. So, Ozie, I am super excited to have you on, and I just want for listeners who may not know you, for you to introduce yourself and tell them about your background and what you do.
Well, I appreciate that. And I'm very, very excited to be on with you today. I'm an Avondale boy, lifelong Avondale boy. Lived on one street here on Eden Avenue for 55 years. I share that because it really centers all of what I've done. I went to Rockdale, Walnut Hills, was fortunate enough to go to Miami of Ohio, played football there, graduated from Miami and went on to grad school and law school at IU. So I'm a Midwestern boy, uh, really, really centered around traditional Midwestern values, working class family, um, come from poverty. Uh, my dad was a postal employee. You know, my mom was a homemaker, and we just grew up. I'm a very family oriented person and very spiritual in regards to really wanting what's best for all of us. Not just for the for me and mine, but for everybody. And that's really been the impetus behind all the work that I've been able to do. And I was thinking the other day, I think it was Annie Ruth had honored
Mm.
Eileen Cooper Reed, and it was in 1999. I had gotten back from law school and was working at a law firm, Harmer Davis and Keys, and Eileen Cooper Reed hired me to do some work for her at the Children's Defense Fund. And since then,
Wow.
um, my my focus has been on community and youth, primarily teenagers
Yeah.
and community, and that's pretty much me in a nutshell.
Yeah, yeah, no, and I know that like the Avondale Youth Council has something that you have spearheaded and is so strong, and I just like even to this day, you have connection to youth that um, you know you can call on, and I know sort of an endorsement from Ozie goes a long way. Um, so what I wanted to talk to you about is when we think about affordable housing, right? Affordable housing, I think, is exists on this spectrum, right? And what we are really thinking about is like housing stability. So affordable housing creates stability, allows people to keep a roof over their head, a healthy home, so that people can live their lives and invest in themselves. And the research tells us, and I know that you know this, that housing is the most important thing in terms of achieving stability. Uh, but I've also had a really personal experience with the power and importance of home ownership. So my grandmother bought a house on the south side of Chicago, Ozie, in 1972. But she was living on a fixed income, and HUD, Housing and Urban Development, had a program at that time in the 70s where people who were on fixed incomes could get a mortgage to buy a house. And what was so incredible about my grandmother owning that house, Ozzy, is that I know she saved so many people in my family from homelessness. And that one person in the family having a house provided like generations of stability. So I had the experience of being born and living in a house through 18, coming back home during a career and having to like sort of come back home to get myself together and having that house, seeing various family members sort of go off and try something, maybe it didn't work out and they can come back. And so there's this, I think that there's this stability that happens and that is created in families because of home ownership outside of the financial wealth building. So, Jose, I would love to hear you just speak on why home ownership is important, what it does to communities, and then what are some things that you think, from a city perspective, could be done to increase home ownership.
Well, I tell you, home ownership is critical, and it's interesting in my own personal life. I grew up across the street from the house that I live in now. What they call my house White Mike's. The Havlin family moved on this street in 1970, and the apartment building that I lived in is still across the street. As a matter of fact, Mike Ely just bought it last year and rehabbed all the apartment buildings, and they don't look anything like what I grew up in, which is amazing. So, when I was growing up, walking to Rockdale, this house was always like the Kool-Aid house, even when we were
Mm-hmm.
kids. Now, we didn't own it, but the Havlins welcomed everybody in the community into their house. And
Mm-hmm.
when Mom Havlin was ready to move, after all the kids had moved out, I was just getting home from law school, and Mom Havlin wanted to keep the house in the family. How about that? White family, the
Yeah.
Havlins, Mom Havlin thinking of me as family. And to this day, this house will never be transferred to anyone but a Davis or a Havlin. And
Yeah.
um, that will show you just how deep home ownership can go. Because
Yes.
on my street here on Eaton Avenue in Avondale, there are six of us that have been here 55 plus years.
Wow.
Joy Wise Marshall, Joy works at the Urban League. She inherited her grandmother's house, Miss Wise, her grandmother. She lives in a big old house down on the corner. Vanessa Henderson, who
Mm-hmm.
heads up the Bush Recreation Center, she lives in her mom's house down at the end of the corner. Maurice Kimball, Steve down the street, Bev's husband, they bought Uncle Charlie's house. This is just on my street
Wow.
alone. And when I say to
Yeah.
people that I live on a good street, it's because of those tenets of home ownership. Um,
Yeah.
you know, long term stability is created by owning your lot, and
Yes.
it creates it creates not just a physical place, but it also creates a spiritual place, some place that you can call yours. And then when you're able to share that with other people in the family and other people in the community, I've had people sleep on my porch, Reggie, and I don't have a problem with it.
Yeah.
Um, you know, some people will say, "You let them sleep on your porch." They could have came in if it was up to me, but they didn't want to come in. They felt like,
Yeah.
"No, I don't want to intrude on your family, but can I get a blanket?" And that is is something that you can't do if you don't have your own. If you're leasing, and that's something that the property manager doesn't allow, it's just something that you can't do. And I just think it's so critical. Now, to your second question around what I think can be done from a city perspective to increase or even encourage more home ownership, is
Yeah.
I believe there should be some type of um, program, incentive program for city employees uh, to live in the city and to
Oh, I
encourage them to
love
live in the
that.
city and to encourage home ownership. And if there was some type of mortgage assistance program, that would I think that would create not only the stability we're talking about with the physical place, but also the community stability. Just think if 50 police officers lived in Avondale, well, we wouldn't have as
Yeah.
much of a safety issue. There was
Right.
interesting enough,
Right.
when I was the executive director at ACDC, we had a consultant come in from Chicago, and we were driving around the neighborhood, and he said to me, "Well, there was a big old house on the corner. Actually, Tracy Hunter owns it, on the corner of
Mm-hmm.
Forest and Wilson." And he said, "Oh, that's a beautiful house. What if the mayor lived in that house?" And I said,
Mm.
"Well, the mayor would never, buy a house in Avondale." He said, "Well, what if you gave the mayor a house in Avondale?" And I
Wow.
started thinking,
Wow.
that would really be something to think about. And if you start thinking about churches and the churches parishes, and how sometimes the leader of the church lives on the church's campuses, it would be interesting to think about. I'm not saying it's something we should do. I'm just saying, if you think about some of our communities that may have been overlooked, may have been just a little behind, but they have these big beautiful homes. What if the city had a program where the
Yeah.
mayor lived for free in the city's house in one of these neighborhoods? It would just be
Mm.
something, I think, that would create such uh, a viable spirit around this big house. And then I
Yes.
think you would see home ownership increase around that as well. And I think
Yeah. Yeah.
the home ownership rate is something that I think, um, if you look at the home ownership rate, and then you look at the community's um, appeal. And I was going to say safety, but safety is not the only thing that we'd have to think about in regards to appeal. You know, but
Right.
if you
That's
look at a
exactly right.
community's
Yes.
appeal and its home ownership rate, you would probably find the more appealing neighborhoods have a higher home ownership rate. And then I
Yes.
think that will
Yes.
get us to this a discussion of concentrated poverty, uh, you know, overabundance of uh, affordable housing.
Of wealth.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah,
Oh yeah, I
wealth
see what you're saying.
definitely.
I see. Yeah, yeah, and that concentration of affordable housing in certain communities, right? Okay, I see what you're saying. Yes.
And that's a
Yes.
fight. That's a constant fight, because while we're having this discussion about a lack of affordable housing, there are some of us saying, well, we got too much affordable housing. And how do we spread it?
And
And
how do we have mixed income communities so that we're creating sort of an economy in communities to have economic centers, right? Like you need,
yes,
what a community is great when you can have grocery stores and restaurants and consumer goods and just the laws of business state that you need a certain amount of income in a community. And so when concentrated poverty is bad, and concentrated wealth, right, is
Right.
bad.
Right.
And the thing that I'm really connecting to what you're saying, Ozie, and the thing I've always appreciated with all of my conversations with you, is that you just bring up in this very logical way uh, the intersection of humanity and and policy, right? Like
Yes.
with the thing that you kept saying, you just kept going back to humanity, right? Like when you think about families, community, connection, and how when those things are considered, we can also make really strong policy choices that are sustainable. And to your point about renting, and housing stability, because I've been thinking about and been reading a lot about home ownership, and there's some studies that have been popping up that says that traditionally home ownership is seen as a path to wealth building, and there have been some studies that have been sort of pushing back against that and saying actually if people rent and then reinvest their money, that it's like the same, they make the same amount of money or even more, right? And I get that, and then the logic made sense, but what's missing from that, right? And just as you said, it is that stability piece. People get evicted from their apartments when their family members are down on their luck, and they come to stay with them, and they're not on a lease.
Right.
So
Right.
you can't even help your people, right? Like,
Right. Right.
like
Right.
that, so yeah, I think that we just cannot discount the stability that has, the buy-in that people have in the community. The my husband and I bought this house when we moved here. And Ozie, I knew I was gonna own a house. I grew up in a house, but I was, not thinking like, oh, I need a house,
Right.
whatever.
Right.
I was like, okay, fine, I'm gonna buy this house. And the moment I became a homeowner, Ozie, I turned into a 75-year-old man, like looking out my window, like, you too close to my curb. Like, like, don't be stepping on my lawn. Like, you know what I mean? Like, going to the Home Depot, looking at the faucets, like, and there's just
Right.
this
Right.
thing, this shift that happened, like this pride, and also wanting to invite people in because I know that I can in this space, right? And I just
Yes.
think that that's intangible,
Yeah.
you know?
Hey, it's interesting because that whole piece about you save the money as a renter, and it's not just about the wealth building because
Yes.
it's not just about buy a house, sell a house. It's about having the house and being able to utilize the house and not just for wealth building. It's important for wealth building too, because you have something stable in your wealth package. So if you start to
Yeah.
look at how your credit is built, and how you define what your wealth you have. Yes, having a home is important, but that's not the only value in home ownership. It's not just about
Yep.
developing wealth. It's also about, and I think about people that own multiple homes. It's I've got a friend who owns a home in Florida that, while he lives here, he Airbnb's the home in Florida. That's powerful. That's
Yep.
powerful because
Yeah.
even if he wasn't Airbnb-ing it, he lets people stay there. If you're going to Miami, he said, "Oh man, you could just stay there." I mean, I've got a buddy. I'm not gonna shout him out because I don't want everybody to call him, but everybody knows him. And he owns a home in the south of France, and he's always, you know, um, he's always saying, "If you ever go to south of France, I got you." And I'm like,
Yeah.
that's super super powerful. And then he even lets people auction it off, like
Yeah.
at fundraisers. And I'm going, man, how powerful is that? That where your home can be utilized in so many ways, other than, because he could have sold it, made money off of it, other than just that. And
Yeah.
I think that's
Yeah.
one of the very critical things. in regards to home ownership. And I do think that if the city could develop a program where city employees are pouring back into our communities, we would find a community strengthening tool that we're not currently utilizing. And it doesn't have to just be police and fire. I don't care who it is that's working at the city. Um, it could be sanitation employees. We should have incentives so these uh, city employees are living in the city. And right now, that's not
I
the
love that
current.
idea.
That's not our current mix. You can live anywhere, and a lot of just like our teachers, a lot of our teachers are coming from Westchester, Mason, and going back home. And I'm fine with people having a choice for where you live, but I'm saying let's incentivize the ideal of rebuilding what community used to be when the teacher lived on the street and the police officer lived on your street, and we had more of a communal nature. And I think we need to get back to that some kind of way. I really do. And another thing that I've been seeing, particularly in some of the neighborhoods that I really admire, like
Yeah,
Northside and College Hill, is this concept of homeowner, business owner. Wow.
mm-hmm.
So I think, let's take our neighborhood. Let's take Avondale. I think the city should have some type of incentive for a person like Zola Stewart. Zola
Yeah,
lives in Avondale and is about to be a business owner in your town center in Avondale. Well,
I
I'm
love
not
that.
saying the city should pay everything, but man, a couple $1,000s would be helpful either for her home or for her business. But I know that in both neighborhoods like Northside and College Hill, the homeowner business owner double up has been very important to building um, the stability in those neighborhoods. And I've seen those neighborhoods come up from
Yeah,
from despair. Northside was not Northside 20 years ago. That place is
right.
beautiful. I love it. Um, Same thing with College Hill. I love the work that they're doing up there. Seth and those guys are doing a tremendous job, but it's starting with uh, the resident business owner. And I
Yeah,
don't know
I
how
love
we
that
can,
idea.
yeah, I don't know how we can get those things combined, but man, I
Well,
know this.
Ozzy, well, let's say this. I'm hoping in November to be
Yes,
Council Member Harris. So
yes,
let's work on it. Let's work on it because that is absolute. That is exactly the type of thinking and policy making and collaboration and leadership that I am about. Like I love, there's just something that's just so practical and yet highly transformative and reasonable, right? Like when you just think about it, there's it makes all the sense in the world to return people, incentivize people to come back into the city, to live where you work, where you're pouring your time into, to live there, and then to recognize and reward when you live in a place and then you bring a business to a place, right? So
wow,
to be right around the corner from your
yes,
shop, you know what I
yes,
mean? You ain't nothing going down because I can see it. I can see my shop. Wait,
exactly.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's amazing. Well, listen, Ozzy, we can do this all day, but we want to, keep our podcast in a certain time frame. So I want to end with this. So we're doing a 1 minute rant, and we're titling the 1 minute rant "What Bothers Me." And so you try to fit
Mm,
in the phrase "What bothers me" as many times in a minute. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go first, and you're gonna time me. So get your phone out and put a
okay,
one
I
minute
got my clock.
timer on, okay?
Okay,
Now, what you'll do is you'll let me know at 30 seconds, you'll let me know at 15 seconds, and then you'll let me know at 5 seconds that I gotta be done. And then we'll switch and I'll time you.
okay, okay.
All
You
right?
ready?
Okay, so let
You
me
ready?
know. Yep, I'm ready.
All right, go.
All right, what bothers me is the conversation around identity politics. Let me tell you what bothers me about this. What bothers me about this is that all politics is identity politics. When you run for an office and you say, as a businessman, I've had XYZ experiences, that's why I believe ABC things, that's identity politics. When you run as a man of faith and you say, as a God-fearing man, I've had XYZ experiences and I believe ABC, that's identity politics. But it's only a problem when black folks, people of color, LGBTQ people, when we run on our experiences, identity politics. You can't do that. It's like everything is identity politics. Our identity shapes our experiences, and that shapes what we believe.
5 seconds.
So if you run, it's identity politics, and it bothers me when people don't realize that.
Yeah, I feel you. All
right, okay, I'm gonna pull up my my timer. All right, you ready, Ozie?
Yes, sir.
You got your topic. All right, here we go. Ready?
Yes, sir.
Set, go.
You know what bothers me? What bothers me is litter. Litter is my number one pet peeve. And you know what bothers me? When people throw boxes out the window like they don't even care. And what bothers me is there's a garbage can not 30 feet away from the box that you just threw out the window. You know what bothers me is Popeyes chicken boxes all over the neighborhood. What bothers me is White Castle bags all over the daggone street. What bothers me is people standing on a street corner that they don't live on, throwing litter all over the place. That really, really bothers me. I mean, what bothers me
15 seconds.
is people not giving a daggone about how clean we could have things. And nothing ever happens bad in clean places.
5 seconds.
What bothers me is that we don't connect litter to disruption in our very beautiful neighborhoods. That really is what bothers me.
And done. Oh, nailed it. Oh, the litter is too. Ozie, I have to tell you before we wrap up. I was driving behind someone the other day and I saw them like throw like a fast food cup out the window. Ozie, I saw red because I had to calm down because I was like getting ready to pull up. I was like, nah, let me not get caught up in something. But like, I was like, just keep it in your car until you get where you're going and throw it away. Like, but yeah, okay. We did our rant though. Ozie, also wanted to say, listen, you're running for school board. You're 2021. So tell us about that. Let folks know how can people support you and your run for school board.
We're going to have a kickoff on April the 25th. Don't let me start the lying. It's 2 weeks from Thursday. Yes, it is the 25th. On March the 25th, we're going to have
March
a kickoff.
25th?
And it will be announced on Facebook. And we're going to do a Zoom kickoff for our platform reveal and our campaign for school board. I'm looking forward to rejoining the school board and bringing another relatable, reasonable mind to the school board committee.
Awesome. Well, Ozie, you have my full support. I have always supported you, supported you in your first run, support you again. And I value your leadership. Thank you. I value your leadership.
We need you on city council. We need your. I mean, you're real nice on this podcast, but if people don't know you, Reggie will get up in somebody quick, fast, and in a hurry. And we need that. We need people that are going to be honest. We need people that are going to be deliberate. And we need people that are going to be for the people before they are for profit. And I really believe you're that person.
I appreciate it, Ozie. All right. Well, let's do this. And thank you so much. And you have a great rest of your day.
God bless you.